Be grown up and understand that God understands you. He understands you. He will not judge you for being imperfect because you are still in the process of evolution. You are an immortal spirit, and your learning is infinite. We cannot limit ourselves to a few decades of incarnation, since spiritual learning is eternal. The first step is to remove haste. Many people are too rushed, especially those who work with mediumship or seek to teach. It is important to be patient, since spiritual growth takes time. In addition, it is essential to have a universalist and eclectic vision, embracing various sources of knowledge to enrich our spiritual culture. Life is a field of trials and atonement, but also of learning. Each incarnation is an opportunity to grow, even if gradually. Imagine someone who studied hard for years, perhaps even the Spiritist doctrine, which is a powerful tool for expanding consciousness and freeing oneself from prejudice. This person may be here to instruct many others, but this does not always happen through lectures or videos. Sometimes, God places people around us to learn with us, even if only for a short period. For example, imagine someone who came to live with you for 20 years, but stayed only 8 months. That spirit may be complicated, full of passions and karmic debts. At first, he may seem good, but over time, true intentions may arise. Even so, the educator must be patient and continue helping, because learning is slow and painful, yet necessary. Spiritual educators are like honest police officers or prison guards in a maximum security prison. They are there to take care of the prisoners, but they are not the same as them. Just like honest officers, spiritual educators are temporarily on earth to help, but they belong to a higher level of consciousness. They know that the path of evolution is long and full of challenges, but they keep working even when people choose to leave before their time. Many educators face criticism and slander, but we should remember that those who speak badly often do so out of spiritual inferiority. Those who feel threatened by knowledge try to discredit others, but this should not stop us. We must remain firm like stones, accepting that learning is a constant process and that we are all at different stages. Accepting that we are still flawed is part of the process. When we pass away, we will realize that we still have much to improve. But this does not mean we are condemned. God does not expect perfection. He expects progress. If you improved only 1% or 1.5%, that is already significant. Instead of blaming yourself, be grateful for the small advances and keep walking forward. Excessive guilt can lead to depression and even spiritual falls. Instead, we should practice forgiveness, both for ourselves and for others. Forgiveness is a powerful tool that frees us from the chains of the past and allows us to move forward. We cannot expect to burn through 30 incarnations in just one. Each spirit has its own pace of evolution. Some manage to progress quickly, while others need more time. The important thing is to accept our place in the process and keep learning, even if slowly. Imagine you earn $10,000 per month. You cannot spend $30,000 without planning. Likewise, we cannot demand from ourselves more than we can give. Accept your rhythm of growth and move forward without hurry. God's time is different from ours, and He knows each one needs time to mature. The choices we make directly affect our spiritual path. When we decide to leave a relationship or situation before the right time, we lose valuable learning opportunities. However, even if we left prematurely, the positive impact of the time we spent together can last a lifetime. Remember that learning is not linear. Sometimes it seems we are not progressing, but small internal changes can make all the difference. The spirit who left after 8 months may, in the future, reflect on the teachings received and apply them, even unconsciously. This shows that learning is continuous and that every moment has value. Accepting our imperfections is crucial for spiritual growth. Many people are too hard on themselves, aiming for levels of purity that do not match their current reality. This creates anxiety and frustration. Instead, we should practice self-acceptance, recognizing that we are in a process of constant evolution. God does not expect us to be perfect angels now. He understands we are human and that the road to perfection is long. Therefore, we must stop comparing ourselves to others and focus on our own progress. Religion often imposes impossible standards to achieve, but we must remember that God loves everyone, regardless of our level of evolution. Love and compassion are fundamental in the learning process. When we teach, we must do so with patience and respect, understanding that each spirit has its own rhythm. Sometimes people who choose to leave early may return in other incarnations, ready to absorb what they did not understand before. We should also remember that love does not exclude correction. A loving father corrects his children, but does not hate them for it. Likewise, we should correct one another with love, without judgment or aggression. The goal is to help, not to punish. Although the path is long and full of challenges, we must have faith that we are progressing. Every experience, good or bad, is a lesson. Even if it seems we are not advancing quickly, small steps are meaningful achievements. We must trust that, in time, we will reach our final destination. Finally, we must remember that learning never ends. Even if we reach high levels of awareness, there will always be more to learn. The secret is to maintain humility and the willingness to grow, accepting that the path is long but rewarding. Pain is not a punishment, but a tool for transformation. Many seek enlightenment without going through suffering, but that is impossible. The soul expands only when it faces challenges that make it reflect, change, and mature. Moral pain, born from frustration, loss, or rejection, is often deeper than physical pain, as it touches the very heart of the being. When someone leaves before the planned time, they often carry feelings of guilt, regret, and resentment. But these feelings are not useless. They are seeds planted for future reflection. The spirit, even amid confusion, gradually comes to understand the reasons behind the situations it has experienced. Accepting pain as an integral part of the process is the first step toward transforming it into wisdom. One who understands this lives with less bitterness and more gratitude. He sees every difficult experience as an opportunity to grow, not as unfair punishment. Many spirits believe they have absolute control over their journey. They think they can choose the path, the time, and the result. But this view is illusory. Free will does exist, but it operates within a greater plan designed by higher intelligences whose understanding goes beyond human capacity. God respects our choices, even when they take us away from the ideal path. This does not mean he approves of all decisions, but he recognizes that the spirit needs to learn through them. Sometimes, leaving early is a painful but necessary choice for learning. Other times, staying too long in a difficult relationship or situation is also part of the process. True maturity comes when we accept that not everything depends on us, that there are greater forces at work, and that even when we make mistakes, we are being guided for our own good. Understanding this brings peace because it relieves the pressure of control and allows us to trust in higher guidance. One of humanity's greatest misunderstandings is confusing love with possession. Many people get hurt when someone decides to leave, thinking they were abandoned or betrayed. But true love is not measured by time or physical proximity. It reveals itself in the influence we leave in each other's lives. When two people share a brief but intense period of coexistence, that time can be enough to cause deep changes. Love does not need to last to be real. It can be fleeting but eternal in its consequences. A simple hug, a single sincere conversation, a moment of genuine listening can mark a whole life. To love is to allow the other to follow their own path, even if that means walking alone. It is to understand that the connection between souls goes beyond time and space, and it is to accept that sometimes the purpose of a relationship is not permanence. but teaching something the spirit needed to learn at that moment. In the modern world, information is overly available. Anyone can access knowledge about philosophy, religion, spirituality, and self-awareness with just a few clicks. However, having access to knowledge does not mean possessing or experiencing it. In this context, the role of the spiritual educator becomes even more important. He is not just a transmitter of information, but a guide who helps the spirit discern between what is useful and what is misleading, between what liberates and what imprisons. He offers emotional and spiritual structure so the learner doesn't get lost in a sea of contradictory information. In addition, the educator must know how to deal with the student's impatience, with their search for quick results. He must teach with patience, tolerance, and compassion, knowing that each spirit has its own time. His mission is not to convert, but to awaken, not to impose, but to inspire. The idea of a new beginning is central to the spiritual journey. Each incarnation is a fresh start, just like each day, each conscious decision to change. Reincarnation is not repeating the same mistakes, but correcting paths and learning from what was done before. Likewise, in our current lives, we need to understand that failure is not synonymous with defeat. It is part of the process. Every mistake is an opportunity for growth, as long as there is a willingness to learn from it. Often, the feeling of defeat arises when we expect immediate results. But the truth is that evolution is slow, constant, and full of restarts. Every time you rise after falling, you show strength, determination, and commitment to progress, and that, in itself, is already a victory. There are moments when it seems that God does not answer, that your requests fall into the void, and that you are alone on the path. Yet this silence is not indifference. It is part of the maturing process. God speaks, yes, but not always in the way we expect. Sometimes He uses silence to force us to look inward, to seek internal answers, to develop active faith. Active faith is the kind that persists even when there are no obvious signs. It is the faith that acts, moves, builds, even in doubt. This faith sustains the spirit during the most difficult times. It does not wait for miracles, but acts as if it had already received what it asked for. Understand that divine silence is not abandonment. It is a call to grow in maturity, independence, and confidence. When you are able to act firmly even without an immediate response, you are making a giant leap in your spiritual journey. True wisdom begins with humility. One who knows much but does not recognize their limitations risks getting lost in the pride of knowledge. True spiritual evolution is not about accumulating knowledge, but about applying it with love, compassion, and simplicity. Humility is recognizing that however much you know, there is still much to learn. It is admitting that everyone has something to teach, even those who seem to be behind in their journey. After all, every spirit carries a unique lesson, and often the greatest truths come from the least expected people. The true teacher does not feel superior to others. He knows he is merely a channel of light, and that while he teaches, he also learns. He does not judge, does not condemn, does not consider himself better. He simply serves with humility and love. Living authentically is a revolutionary act. In a world where so many wear masks to fit in, being true is taking the risk of being different, misunderstood, or even rejected. But it is also the only way to live with integrity and inner peace. God does not want you to be someone you are not. He loves you exactly as you are, but He also wants you to grow, and growth only happens when we start from reality, not from lies. Be honest with yourself, recognize your flaws, but also celebrate your strengths. Accept that you are imperfect, but in motion. Stop trying to impress, to pretend that everything is fine when it isn't. Allow yourself to feel, cry, question, make mistakes, and try again. This freedom to be genuine attracts other spirits seeking authenticity. Your example, even if silent, can impact more than words. Sometimes someone's absence may seem like a loss. In reality, it may be a disguised gift. Every departure carries a purpose, even if not understood immediately. The one who was briefly by your side may have been sent precisely to prepare you for something greater. Perhaps they came to test your patience, strengthen your faith, or open your eyes to truths you could not see. Absence also teaches us to value the present moment. It shows that nothing is guaranteed and that we should cherish every moment with gratitude. Furthermore, absence creates spaces that only time and maturity can fill. Do not blame the other for having left. Guilt is negative energy that does not build. Instead, thank them for everything that was lived, even if briefly. Acknowledge the lessons learned and move forward, knowing that every departure makes room for new arrivals. Rising after a fall is a heroic act, but many, instead of moving forward, get stuck in guilt and remorse. They believe that because they made a mistake, they are doomed to failure. But this view is distorted. To err is human. It is part of the spiritual condition. The important thing is not to never fall, but always to rise. And above all, to do so without punishing yourself excessively. Excessive guilt paralyzes, while forgiveness sets you free. Forgiving yourself is recognizing that you are a being in evolution. It is allowing yourself to move forward with dignity and hope. It is understanding that even amidst mistakes, you are still loved and guided. When you free yourself from guilt, you create space for light to enter. And it is in this clean, renewed space that true growth occurs.